The envelope trembled in Marcus's hands as he stared at the number, $50,000. Enough to pay for Lily's entire college education. Enough to change their lives forever. He looked up at Catherine, his boss of 3 years, who simply smiled and said, "Some debts can never truly be repaid, but I had to try." As the tears welled in his eyes, Marcus thought back to that rainy night 6 months ago when a simple act of kindness had set everything in motion. If you're moved by stories of unexpected kindness and life-changing moments, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming true stories that restore faith in humanity. Marcus Jenkins checked his watch for the third time in 5 minutes. It was already 11:30 p.m., and the office Christmas party showed no signs of winding down. As a single father to 8-year-old Lily, he'd arranged for his neighbor Mrs. Patel to watch her, but he'd promised to be home by midnight. The babysitter rates after midnight would eat into the grocery budget he'd carefully planned for the week. He glanced across the hotel ballroom at Catherine Winters, the CEO of Meridian Software, who was laughing too loudly at something the VP of marketing had said. Catherine was brilliant and driven, the reason their small startup had grown 300% in 3 years, but tonight she was clearly intoxicated. Marcus had never seen her like this before. "You heading out soon?" asked Denise from HR, noticing Marcus's restlessness. "Need to get home to Lily," he replied, gathering his coat. "Mrs. Patel has school tomorrow too." As Marcus made his way toward the exit, he noticed Catherine stumbling slightly as she reached for another glass of champagne. The bartender, looking concerned, discreetly moved the bottle away. Catherine frowned, her usual composed demeanor cracking. Marcus hesitated. He was just the senior developer, not part of the executive circle. It wasn't his place to intervene. But something in Catherine's expression, a flash of vulnerability he'd never seen before, made him change direction. "Ms. Winters," he said quietly, approaching her. "I was about to call a ride home. Would you like to share one?" Catherine turned, her eyes taking a moment to focus on him. "Marcus," she said, recognition dawning. "Always the responsible one." She smiled, but there was something sad behind it. "I'm fine. Celebrating our best quarter ever." "Of course," Marcus nodded. "But maybe we could continue celebrating in the car? It's getting late." After a moment's consideration, Catherine nodded. "Lead the way, Jenkins." Outside, the December rain fell in icy sheets. Marcus helped Catherine into his modest sedan, noticing how she shivered despite her expensive wool coat. The car's heater wheezed to life as he sent a quick text to Mrs. Patel explaining he'd be a bit later than planned. "Where to?" he asked, pulling away from the curb. Catherine gave him an address in Westlake, one of the city's most exclusive neighborhoods. As they drove, she grew quieter, staring out at the rain-slicked streets. "You know what day it is?" she asked suddenly. "December 18th, Marcus replied. 3 years ago today, I signed the divorce papers," Catherine said, her voice hollow. 3 years since David decided his executive assistant was more suitable wife material than the woman who helped build his company from nothing. Marcus gripped the steering wheel tighter, unsure how to respond. He'd had no idea. Catherine never spoke about her personal life at work. "I'm sorry," he offered simply. "Don't be," she said. "Best thing that ever happened to me. Forced me to start Meridian. Prove I could do it better on my own." She paused. "But some anniversaries still sting, you know?" Marcus nodded. "I understand that all too well." Catherine turned to look at him. "Your wife. Lily's mother. She passed away, right? 4 years ago." "Cancer," Marcus said, the familiar ache returning. "Lily was just 4. The car filled with a silence that felt like mutual understanding. "You're a good father, Marcus," Catherine said suddenly. "I see the pictures on your desk. The way you light up talking about her science projects. You never miss a school event, even with our deadlines." Marcus felt a flush of pride mixed with embarrassment. She's everything to me. As they pulled up to Catherine's modern glass house, she made no move to exit the car. Why did you help me tonight? She asked. You could have just left. No one would have blamed you. Marcus considered the question. Because you needed it. And that's what people should do for each other. Catherine studied him for a long moment. You know, I've been watching your work for months now. That security protocol redesign you submitted last month was brilliant. Thank you, Marcus said, surprised by the sudden change in topic. What would you say if I told you I'm creating a new position? Director of Security Architecture. Significant pay increase, more flexible hours. Marcus's heart raced. More money and flexible hours would change everything for him and Lily. I'd say it sounds like an amazing opportunity, he answered carefully. Good, Catherine nodded. We'll talk Monday. She opened the car door, then paused. And Marcus? Thank you. For the ride and everything else. The weekend passed in a blur of hope and anxiety. By Monday morning, Marcus had convinced himself the conversation had been nothing more than drunk talk. But at 9 a.m. sharp, he received an email requesting his presence in Catherine's office. When he arrived, Catherine looked immaculate as always, no trace of Friday's vulnerability visible. Close the door, please, she said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. First, I want to apologize for my condition Friday night. No apology necessary, Marcus assured her. Nevertheless, she continued, I'm not in the habit of being unprofessional. But I meant what I said about the position. She slid a folder across the desk. Here's the formal offer. Marcus opened it and nearly gasped at the salary figure, almost double what he currently made. This is extremely generous, he managed. It's what the position is worth, Catherine said firmly. And there's something else. She handed him another envelope. This is personal, not from the company. Inside was a certificate for a college savings plan in Lily's name, with an initial deposit of $50,000. I can't accept this, Marcus said immediately, his voice thick with emotion. You can, and you will, Catherine said. When David left, I was in a dark place for a long time. Work became everything. Friday night was a momentary return to that darkness. Your simple kindness reminded me there's more to life than quarterly reports and market share. She leaned forward. Marcus, do you know why Meridian succeeds where other startups fail? Because I believe in investing in people who demonstrate exceptional character. Your kindness wasn't just the right thing to do, it showed me exactly who you are. Marcus looked down at the certificate again, thinking of what this meant for Lily's future. Some debts can never truly be repaid, Catherine said softly, but I had to try. That night, Marcus sat at his small kitchen table long after Lily had gone to bed. The house was quiet except for the occasional creak of the old heating system fighting against the winter chill. He stared at the college fund certificate, still unable to fully process what had happened. His mind drifted back to the countless nights he'd lain awake worrying about Lily's future, about whether he could ever provide her with the opportunities she deserved. After Sarah died, he'd been drowning, not just in grief, but in the practical realities of being a single parent. The medical bills had depleted their modest savings. The mortgage on their small house stretched his salary thin. There were days when he'd skipped meals to ensure Lily had enough to eat, nights when he'd mended her clothes by hand because new ones weren't in the budget. And now, with a single gesture, Catherine had lifted one of his heaviest burdens. Lily would have a chance at college without crushing debt. She could pursue her dreams without the financial constraints that had limited his own choices. Marcus wiped away tears as he carefully placed the certificate in the fireproof box where he kept their important documents. Next to it was a faded photograph of Sarah holding newborn Lily, her smile radiant despite the exhaustion of childbirth. I'm doing my best, he whispered to the image. I hope it's enough. The next morning, Marcus woke with a renewed sense of purpose. He made Lily's favorite breakfast, banana pancakes shaped like stars, and watched with pride as she chatted excitedly about her upcoming science project on renewable energy. "Dad, can we build a real solar panel?" she asked, maple syrup dripping from her chin. "I think we can figure something out," he replied, making a mental note to research DIY solar kits. With his new salary, such projects would no longer be out of reach. As he drove to work, Marcus felt a strange mix of gratitude and determination. Catherine's generosity had changed their trajectory, but he was resolved to prove her faith in him was justified. This wasn't charity, it was an investment in his abilities, and he intended to deliver returns. The transition to his new role came with unexpected challenges. Some colleagues, particularly James Harrington from the development team who had been at Meridian longer than Marcus, seemed resentful of his promotion. "Must be nice having the boss take a personal interest in your career," James remarked during Marcus's first leadership meeting, just loud enough for others to hear. Marcus chose to ignore the comment, focusing instead on outlining his vision for strengthening the company's security infrastructure. But the undercurrent of suspicion followed him through those first weeks. He overheard whispers in the break room, noticed how conversation sometimes stopped when he entered. Catherine, ever perceptive, called him into her office after he'd been in the position for a month. "How are you settling in?" she asked, gesturing for him to take a seat. "The work is challenging but rewarding," Marcus replied carefully. "And the team?" Catherine pressed, her gaze sharp. Marcus hesitated. "There's been some adjustment period." Catherine nodded. "I expected as much. People always question rapid advancement, especially when they don't know the full story." She leaned forward. "Which is why I need you to lead the security audit for the Westfield account." Marcus's eyes widened. Westfield Technologies was their largest client, a Fortune 500 company whose data security requirements were notoriously stringent. "That's a high-profile assignment," he said. "Exactly," Catherine replied. "Success will silence the doubters." "And Marcus? I'm not setting you up to fail. I'm giving you the chance to shine." The Westfield audit consumed Marcus's next 3 weeks. He assembled a team that notably included James Harrington, whose coding skills were undeniable despite his attitude. They worked long hours, identifying vulnerabilities and implementing solutions that went beyond the client's expectations. When they presented their findings to Westfield's executive team, the response was overwhelmingly positive. The client's CTO personally commended Marcus's innovative approach to their legacy system integration issues, a problem that had stumped their previous security consultants. Back at Meridian, the success transformed Marcus's standing. James approached him after the presentation, extending his hand. "I misjudged you," he admitted. "That workaround for their authentication system was brilliant." "It was actually based on your code from the Peterson project," Marcus replied. "I just adapted it for their environment." James looked surprised, then thoughtful. "Well, good eye for recognizing its potential." The tension between them eased after that. James became one of Marcus's strongest allies, and together they developed security protocols that would eventually become Meridian's most marketable products. As spring arrived, bringing with it longer days and the promise of renewal, Marcus found himself settling into a rhythm that had seemed impossible just months before. His new position allowed him to work from home 2 days a week, giving him precious extra time with Lily. They established Wednesday night as Invention Night, where they would tackle creative projects together. One Wednesday, as they were constructing a miniature wind turbine for Lily's renewable energy project, the doorbell rang. Marcus opened it to find Catherine standing on his porch, looking uncharacteristically casual in jeans and a light sweater. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said, holding up a folder. "But I wanted to discuss this proposal with you before tomorrow's board meeting, and I was in the neighborhood." Marcus invited her in, suddenly aware of the modest size of his home compared to her Westlake mansion. Toys were scattered across the living room floor, and dishes from dinner still sat in the sink. "Sorry about the mess," he began, but Catherine waved away his apology. "Please, this is a home," she said, her eyes taking in the science book stacked on the coffee table, the framed drawings by Lily on the walls. "It's lived in. It's real." Lily peeked around the corner from the kitchen, curious about their visitor. "You must be Lily," Catherine said, smiling warmly. "Your dad talks about you all the time." "Are you Dad's boss?" Lily asked directly. Catherine laughed. "I suppose I am, technically. But we're also colleagues. Partners in solving problems." Lily considered this. "Do you want to see our wind turbine? Dad says it might actually generate enough electricity to power a small LED light." "I'd love to," Catherine replied, following Lily to the kitchen table where their project was spread out. What was meant to be a quick business discussion turned into a 2-hour visit. Catherine helped them refine the turbine design, drawing on knowledge from a renewable energy startup Meridian had worked with the previous year. By the end of the evening, they had a working prototype that lit up a string of tiny lights, much to Lily's delight. As Catherine prepared to leave, she paused at the door. "Thank you for this evening, Marcus. It's been refreshing." "The business proposal," Marcus began, realizing they'd never discussed it. "Can wait until tomorrow," Catherine finished. "Some things are more important." After that night, something shifted in their professional relationship. Catherine began seeking Marcus's input on matters beyond security, valuing his perspective as someone who approached problems differently than the MBA-trained executives who populated the upper ranks. In turn, Marcus gained confidence in his new role, no longer feeling like an imposter who had lucked into a position beyond his qualifications. He expanded his team, implementing training programs that identified talent throughout the company regardless of formal education or background. 3 months after his promotion, Marcus faced his first major crisis as a director. A sophisticated cyber attack targeted several tech companies in their region, including Meridian. The attackers exploited a previously unknown vulnerability in a widely used operating system, gaining access to sensitive areas of their network. Marcus led the response team, working through 2 sleepless nights to contain the breach and protect client data. When the dust settled, Meridian had fared better than most of their competitors, thanks to the additional security layers Marcus had implemented during the Westfield audit. At the emergency board meeting called to address the attack, Catherine asked Marcus to present their response strategy. As he outlined the steps they'd taken and the preventative measures now in place, he noticed the board members' expressions shifting from concern to relief to admiration. "What Mr. Jenkins has demonstrated," Catherine concluded after his presentation, "is exactly why Meridian has emerged as an industry leader in security. While our competitors were scrambling for damage control, we were already 3 steps ahead." The chairman of the board, a veteran tech executive named Richard Blackwell, nodded approvingly. "Impressive work, Jenkins. Catherine told us you were exceptional." Nice to see she wasn't exaggerating. That evening, Catherine invited Marcus to join her for dinner at an upscale restaurant to celebrate their successful crisis management. As they sat across from each other, Marcus realized how far they'd both come from that rainy December night. "I have something to tell you," Catherine said after they'd ordered. "The board has approved a new initiative, a foundation focused on technology education for underprivileged youth. They want you to head the advisory committee." Marcus was stunned. "Me? Why not someone with more experience in education?" "Because this isn't just about teaching coding," Catherine explained. "It's about showing kids like Lily that there's a place for them in this industry, regardless of their background or circumstances." She paused. "The foundation was my idea, but the focus on single-parent families was the board's suggestion after they heard your story." Marcus thought about what this could mean, not just for Lily, but for countless children facing similar challenges. Kids who, like him, had talent and drive but lacked opportunities and connections. "I'd be honored," he said finally. Catherine smiled. "Good. Because we've already secured initial funding and partnerships with 3 local schools. We start next month. As summer approached, Marcus's life settled into a new normal that would have seemed impossible just 6 months earlier. His position at Meridian was secure, respected. Lily was thriving, her natural curiosity nurtured by the resources they now had access to. The foundation work was beginning to take shape, with plans for summer coding camps and mentor programs. But amid this professional success, Marcus realized something was still missing. Since Sarah's death, he'd focused entirely on survival, keeping his job, providing for Lily, making it through each day. He hadn't allowed himself to think beyond